Trojan football says bye-bye to last week as they take a week off to prepare for a big game against the ranked Colorado Buffaloes next weekend.
We're also talking about USC Women's Soccer today as sophomore forward Tara McCune stopped by. Sports Scene is next.
Welcome to Sports Scene here in the Annenberg Media Center. I'm Natalie Reddington.
And I'm Sam Arslanian. USC Women's Soccer fell in its toughest test of the season this past weekend to Stanford. But the women of Troy still have plenty to look forward to this season.
Yeah, Sam, USC had a packed weekend, taking on both Cal and Stanford in two tough games. Both matches went into golden goal overtime with a loss to Stanford and a win against Cal.
The 1-0 loss to the Cardinal ended the women of Troy's 10-game undefeated streak this season. It also marks the 5th game in a row that the Trojans have lost to the Cardinal. As for Stanford, they've now won 33 games in a row, a streak that started back on August 25th of 2017.
Wow. And freshman forward Penelope Hawking spoke with us after practice today to talk about what makes the Stanford team so impressive.
It's just they're all really good players. They're well coached. They just kind of play like the national team. They play really possession oriented, and it's really hard to defend them because they're just such a good opponent.
The women of Troy were back in practice this week, focusing on ball possession. Last Sunday against Stanford, USC demonstrated a solid performance, but couldn't keep the ball possession necessary to put together an offensive attack. Head coach Kadani McAlpine talked to Sports Scene about the importance of regrouping after the loss.
It's a good benchmark to see where you are, and it provides an opportunity for growth. And I think we grew a lot in that game, and now we've got to carry it forward into these games because we want to be peaking and we want to do well at the end of the season. So this is a moment where we've got to regroup and just continue to get better.
The women of Troy will face the Wildcats tomorrow afternoon and the Sun Devils on Sunday at McAllister Field.
Yesterday, I had the chance to sit down with sophomore midfielder Tara McCune to learn more about her time on the national team and the importance of USC's perspective in Pac-12 play. When you play against people like Stanford and UCLA, you must see a lot of your national team teammates. What's it like playing against them?
It's just fun. I mean, we've been on the same team for the national team since we were 15, so it's we kind of know what each other are going to do, but it's fun and we have a good time. I spoke to them on the field. It wasn't right. The whole time, but yeah, so it was fun. It's always fun seeing them too.
And then finally, what can you tell us about the upcoming games against both Arizona schools? So Arizona State and University of Arizona. What's practice like? How's it going?
Well, this week is actually a short turnaround for us since we just had 2 games. We had Sunday and then we have to have a day off. So we had Monday off. And then today it was more of going to goal. Usually the first day back from a day off is harder, more intense. So we were just preparing, going to goal, doing some tactical things that we think are going to be open in the game. And then tomorrow will probably be lighter because we only have 2 days of practice before we have our game on Thursday. So, but going into this weekend, we're all just we have to be mentally prepared because even though they're not ranked, they're still any team in the Pac-12 can have the ability to beat someone else. Everyone is just neck and neck. So we have to go into these games knowing that we need to perform to get the results we want.
All right. Well, thank you so much for coming in today and good luck this weekend.
Yeah.
The USC Women's Soccer team was off to its best start in history before taking on the #1 ranked Stanford Cardinal this past weekend. Although the Trojans lost, there still are a lot of positives for the 2018 season. One of the best ways to show that is to look at the stats so far. First and foremost, the Trojans have outscored their opponents by a score of 27-4. And that means the women of Troy are averaging an astounding 2.45 goals per game compared to its opponents' 0.34 goals, the 7th best in the NCAA. USC has also outshot its opponents 197-81. However, that's only an average of 17.91 shots per game, the 25th best in the nation. Compared to elite competition like Stanford, USC trails by an average of 5 shots per game. On the other hand, though, the team's lockdown defense has been the anchor of this top-ranked ball club. The back line has prevented opposing offenses from firing shots at redshirt sophomore goalkeeper Kaylee Collins. Those 81 shots against USC equate to an average of just 7.4 shots per game. And of those 7.4 shots, just an average of 2.7 shots are on frame each game, which is probably why 8 of the Trojans' 11 games this season have been in shutout fashion, the 8th most by any team in the NCAA. With conference play coming up, USC's dominant offense and solid defense should be able to carry them in their final 8 games. This will set USC up for a favorable spot in the NCAA tournament in November, and the women of Troy could find themselves in another national championship game. From the back of the net over the net, we now head to this week's installment of Ask an Athlete with our own Tony Novelli.
Hi, welcome back to Ask an Athlete. I'm Tony, and I'm here with USC Women's Volleyball libero Victoria Garrick. Victoria, how are you today?
I'm good. Thanks for having me, Tony.
Okay, here we go. What's your favorite snack?
Gushers.
What is the best book you've ever read?
The Subtle Art of Not Giving a F word.
Who's your role model?
My brother.
And what is your favorite thing to post on Instagram?
Real posts. Check them out.
And what's your pump-up song?
My pump-up song is Blunt Blowin' by Lil Wayne.
And what's the hardest thing you've done?
Be up with this team for years. But it's rewarding.
Okay. And which year team is the funniest?
Reagan.
And who is your celebrity crush?
Bradley Cooper.
And what's your go-to karaoke song?
Anything Taylor Swift.
Can we get a little rendition?
No.
Okay. And what's your favorite Netflix show?
I just started Maniac, so Maniac.
Thank you. That's all we have time for today. Thank you, Victoria. Be sure to check out the women's volleyball team this Thursday playing Oregon State.
USC football is 3-2 after taking down the Arizona Wildcats in Tucson last Saturday. There will be no game this Saturday, as the team is on a bye week, giving USC 2 weeks to prepare for their matchup against Colorado.
While the Trojans' performance was far from perfect, USC's running game continues to improve after poor showings against Stanford and Texas. Cedric Ware, Stephen Carr, and Vavai Malapaya combined to rush for 261 yards and 3 touchdowns to help USC secure a 24-21 win over Arizona.
JT Daniels completed 16 of 24 passes for 197 yards, but had no touchdowns. Wide receiver Amon Ross St. Brown was USC's best receiver, reeling in 5 receptions for 54 yards.
One glaring issue for the Trojans is discipline. Against Arizona, USC accumulated 18 penalties for a total of 169 yards. Through their first 5 games, USC has recorded a combined 46 penalties for a total of 426 yards. Quarterback JT Daniels expressed penalty concerns at practice.
Some of his decision making, just guys being dumb. It's a whole assortment of things, but Coach Heldon individually broke down each penalty with the entire team, so we know what to do.
St. Brown and offensive coordinator T. Martin talked about how important this bye week will be to resting USC starters and preparing for Colorado.
I think this week is big for us as a team. Some time off, time for our bodies to heal up, focus on some more developmental stuff. As position group, get better as work on our own craft rather than more scheme-wise. So it's a big week off for us.
Mainly today we got ahead with Colorado, some of the preliminary game planning, and tomorrow will be another day at Colorado, and then we'll have a few days off.
Trojans will only practice twice this week as they begin preparations to play Colorado. USC will be focused on stopping junior quarterback Steven Montez, who has thrown for over 1,000 yards and scored a total of 12 touchdowns on the year. USC's defense will try to slow down a Colorado offense averaging 40.3 points per game, while USC's offense will be up against the Colorado defense allowing just 17.8 points per contest. The Buffaloes are 4-0, good for first place in the Pac-12 South. USC sits behind them at 3-2. Now let's toss it to Alexandra for an injury update.
Thanks, Noah and Daniel. We have a few different injuries to update you on this week. John Houston Jr. had a neck injury that produced stingers, which feel exactly like they sound. Stingers are shooting pains that can run from the base of the skull down to the bottom of the neck, and they can also be accompanied by a burning or pinching sensation. This happens when you hit a bundle of nerves called the brachial plexus, which runs down your neck and all the way into your arm. This type of pain is very common for athletes, and especially for football players who get hit on high impact from the side. Luckily, Stingers tend to resolve themselves on their own with rest, and Coach Helton says he's going to hold out Houston all of this week and reevaluate him on Monday when his neck should be all better. Amon-Ra St. Brown has had an AC sprain for multiple weeks, and he's getting a PRP injection to help. PRP is short for platelet-rich plasma, and a PRP injection is when doctors take a patient's blood, spin it down, and inject it into the patient's injured joint to promote healing. He's resting this week to get healthy again. And Isaac Taylor Stewart has been in a boot due to a lower ankle injury that Coach Helton says is pretty severe. He'll be out for a few weeks, but we still don't know exactly how long. That's all for this week. Now let's toss to Cecil for a Trojan update.
Thanks, Alexandra. In this edition of Trojan Update, let's take a look at how some former Trojans performed in Week 4 of the NFL season. In the Jets' 31-12 loss to the Jaguars, Sam Darnold had a tough matchup against one of the league's best defenses. He completed only half of his passes, but managed to throw his third touchdown of the season. Darnold also avoided turning the ball over for the first time in his pro career. Juju Smith-Schuster had yet another impressive game this past week, with 4 catches going for 60 yards. He now has 31 catches for 416 yards on the season, good for 8th in the NFL. Smith-Schuster is currently on pace to top 1,000 yards for the first time in just his second season. That's all for this week's Trojan Update. Back to you, Sam and Natalie.
Just down the road, the Lakers kicked off the preseason at the Staples Center. So, Natalie, you've been a Lakers fan for your entire life. How does it feel to see LeBron James wearing purple and gold?
It's honestly pretty weird seeing him in the jersey. I've been going to Lakers games since I was 3 years old. I've been a Kobe fan ever since, and we've kind of just generally seen LeBron as the enemy, but there's no doubt he's such an amazing player, and he's probably going to bring us a championship in the years to come. So I think this season will be really interesting to see how it plays out.
Well, I can't wait to see if LeBron will carry another team to an NBA championship.
Well, thanks for tuning in to this week's episode of Sports Scene. Please follow us on Facebook and Twitter at Annenberg Media Sports. I'm Natalie Reddington.
And I'm Sam Arslanian. We'll see you next week.